Hello, hello, my friends. How's it going out there? Happy full moon lunar eclipse, I guess, if we can say. Happy lunar eclipse. So I'm happy to be here with all of you. I wanted to get to this earlier today, but as you all know, I've been really busy in the past week moving into my new healing center, which I'm super excited about. I'm actually at my house right now because I don't have my internet connection rigged up at the center yet, but hopefully next week when I do the energy update, it will be at the center and you guys can all see my new space. I'm super excited about it. And so, just in thinking about the energy of this eclipse season, I want to share with you a little bit about what my intuitive insights are around the energies. And then I'm also, of course, going to talk a little bit about the astrology, and we'll get some additional insights from the tarot as well. A lot of people have been sort of freaking out about this eclipse season that we're in right now because the energy is pretty intense. But, what I want to point out here is that the intensity of the energy that's happening right now doesn't have to mean that it's tumultuous, that it's negative, that it's going to cause destruction or anything like that. It's intense energy, but we have to remember that the big picture is that anytime we have eclipses, it's true that eclipses can serve to illuminate our awareness as to what's been going on the unconscious shadow aspect, and that it can be somewhat disruptive, but disruptive in the way that the energies are always trying to support us and getting even more aligned with what our highest timeline is, meaning our path of highest meaning and purpose, connecting with our deepest, most authentic selves. So, any disruption energy that is connected to any eclipse season in the big picture is always serving ultimately to illuminate our awareness and to exalt us, so to speak. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want us all to remember that this is the second eclipse season of the year. And so it's like we're sort of coming full circle with energies that we've been working with since spring, really. We had our last eclipse season, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, was on April 30th. We had a solar eclipse on the new moon, and then on May 15th, we had the lunar eclipse for the full moon. And the signs that these eclipses were in are the signs that they're in now, but flip-flopped. And what I mean by that is right now, like we just had that solar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, and now within the next several hours, we're in that shadow period of moving into the lunar eclipse right now as we speak, in the sign of Taurus. And when we had the eclipses in April, May, the solar eclipse was in Taurus and the lunar eclipse was in Scorpio. And so with the astrology that's been going on, especially with the North Node and Uranus over the past several months, it's like April, May eclipse season served to really make us aware of where we have not been living completely in alignment with our soul truth, our soul path. This eclipse season is sort of a revisiting of that. It's giving us an opportunity to recognize where we're at now with what has been brought to our attention earlier this spring. So it's a time of like a little bit of a check-in. And I feel that in us checking in, most of us are going to be able to recognize that there's actually been a tremendous amount of growth and awareness that's happened in that time period of the past 6 months. All of us are going to experience the eclipse energy in our own unique individual ways, and that is connected to how it's influencing our natal chart on one level. But as always, there's a collective energy that impacts everyone in humanity. And because the North Node and Uranus conjunction that we've had going on since July, August, it has been a big influence, and it's a big influence in this lunar eclipse. The theme remains to be along the lines of us stepping into our highest timeline. I know I've been talking about this for several months, but it's because it's what the energy is right now. And, you know, for those of us who have been on a path of evolution, soul growth, and we've taken the time to become aware of where we have room to step more into our authentic path, our deep soul love, our path of meaning and purpose, living in alignment with our values. If we've already been doing that work, then I really feel that this eclipse season that we're in the midst of now is serving to support us in having like a groundedness, a centeredness, and an embodiment of the progress that we have made so far throughout the past few months. And the reason that that embodiment energy is coming in now is because this lunar eclipse is happening in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. It's all about embodiment on many levels. Taurus is a very grounded energy. It's connected to Venus, so there's a lot of sensuality there as well. So it's about really reclaiming our deep, authentic connection with ourself. I talked about this when I did the video for the solar eclipse about being grounded in the lower chakras. That energy is still there. But you know, when I'm looking at the chart, the astrology chart for this eclipse, the moon is in alignment with the north node of the moon and Uranus. It's sort of sandwiched in between Uranus and the north node of the moon. So let's remember that the moon represents our sensing, feeling body. It can be our emotions. It can be senses, feelings, not only on an actual emotional level, but we can look at this as also being on an intuitive level. Some of the other things that are happening astrologically right now, with namely Neptune and Jupiter being in Pisces again, gives us also a little bit of an intuitive edge. So the key to moving forward through the opportunity for awareness, enlightenment, embodiment that this eclipse season, and in fact this lunar eclipse is bringing us, is very connected to staying tapped into our silent knowing, our intuition, and asking yourself, what is my intuition informing me of around what my own development is and what the results of my efforts in my soul development are bringing me right now. So I think maybe it might be easier to explain if I just share some examples of how I'm recognizing this in my own life. So right before the eclipse in April is when my husband and I moved to a new home here in Sedona. We weren't expecting to have to move, but as many of us have experienced over the past year or so, the people who owned our home, we were just renting, wanted to turn it into an Airbnb. So we had to move. So it was like an unexpected thing, but we rolled with it. We flowed with it. We're super happy about where we live now, and it's all good. But that is what sort of triggered me into a series of unexpected changes that have happened over the course of the past few months. Right after we got settled into our new home is when we had the flood at the office building, and I had to move my office. So lo and behold, here we are in the midst of the next eclipse season that's happening right now. And for me in my life, there's like a lot of activity, there's a lot of disruption, but it's positive disruption in the way of I got a new office space, a new place for my healing center. I've been very actively busy, working with the energies that are happening now. But for me, it's like a coming back together, a reharmonization that's happening now due to me consciously flowing with the energy of change, unexpected change, which Uranus is very much a part of, back in the early spring of this year. So I'm just using that as an example of how things can shape up for some of us. Now, if you're a person who hasn't felt connected with your intuition enough to be able to consciously flow with the guidance of change, however that's been showing up for you, which more than likely on the Scorpio Taurus axis, it's a lot about change that enables us to shift back into living more in alignment with what we truly value. So a lot of what's been illuminated in our awareness, so to speak, over the past 6 months is where we have not been living in alignment with our values, where we've unintentionally slipped away from that. So if you're a person who hasn't really recognized that up till this point, between spring and now, then it could be that right now is your little second wave of reminder, right? Like the universe, like, okay, come on, you still got to do this. Let's move it along. And the reason that the energy is around liberating us from, or us liberating ourselves, right? We're shown the awareness, but it's always up to us to take the steps. It's not necessarily always going to happen for you on its own, but sometimes the universe has a way of pulling the rug out from underneath us when that needs to happen to get us to make a change. So that can be happening with some of us right now as well. If we've been digging our heels in, which can be connected to that Taurus energy on the unconscious lower octave of Taurus, can be really stubborn. And in fact, speaking of that, the main signs that are involved with this lunar eclipse are in astrology what's called fixed signs. We have cardinal, mutable, and fixed. And the fixed signs are on the lower octave, can be really stubborn and digging heels in, so to speak. So Taurus, Aquarius, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and Scorpio are all fixed energies. So one of the challenges that may be presented to some of us can be connected to, where have I been stubborn? And where has stubbornness perhaps been sabotaging me? Hi, Nina. Thanks for chiming in. Hi, Britt. So, yeah. So be aware of that. Eclipses always illuminate our awareness as to where we've had blind spots, basically. But when we're always open to being shown our blind spots, which I certainly effort towards in my life. I welcome opportunity to have support in seeing where my own blind spots are, because I want to be as awake and aware as I can. So basically what I'm getting at is, if you're moving on a path with as much conscious awareness as you possibly can, then chances are this eclipse is dialing you back in and bringing you back into an embodiment in a way that can feel like a positive experience. If you're just sort of getting on that path, or you've been procrastinating, then again, it might feel a little bit more challenging. But even within the challenges, remember that even the challenges are meant to support us in getting fresh energy circulating. And specifically with the energy around this eclipse, the energy that's wanting to circulate is us liberating ourselves, bringing to completion anything that is connected to us having too much of a compromise of core value in our life on that deep soul level. Now, I want to talk about some of the other things here. So I'm going to talk about Uranus for a moment, because Uranus is connected to higher mind, cosmic awareness, and Uranus and the moon for this lunar eclipse are almost exactly conjunct. And so that supercharges the energy of the eclipse. But what that means is that we also have the ability to access cosmic awareness, especially because Jupiter and Neptune are both in Pisces right now, which lends itself also to spiritual awareness and feeling connected to spiritual awareness. So that energy is helping us. Uranus supports us in being able to liberate ourselves from the things that I've already talked about. It can mean sudden unexpected developments, sudden unexpected change. But again, these things can be blessings in disguise. It can be what we recognize as a welcomed blessings, supportive, unexpected developments. And so I invite us all to be open to that, and let's not presume gloom and doom, because I'm really not feeling it that way. In fact, my intuition is telling me that this energy around this eclipse, with the conjunction with Uranus, with the moon, and then the North Node is within that sphere of conjunction as well. Remembering that the North Node of the moon is all about our higher calling, what our soul really gravitates towards. This is what we're all being supported in right now. Now, this full moon is happening astrologically in opposition with Mercury, the Sun, and Venus, all relatively conjunct in the sign of Scorpio. So each planet, each sign has its sort of lower octave unconscious aspects, and then the higher octave conscious aspects. So one of the things that we do need to be aware of with Mercury in Scorpio is to not have a forked tongue, so to speak. Be conscious around how you speak, and remember to override anything that feels like an unconscious reactionary response to something that might be being emotionally triggered, especially with the full moon eclipse. It can serve to, trigger our emotions. And the opportunity for soul growth here is in recognizing that and choosing to respond with loving kindness consciously, rather than unconsciously reacting in ways that can become like spewing poison arrows with your words. So this is a mindfulness practice that we can all be working with over the course of, I'll say the rest of this lunar cycle. So the next 2 weeks, because the energy of this eclipse is really going to be, the energy of eclipses pretty much plays itself out until we have the next eclipse, but it will be particularly highlighted for the duration of this lunar month, this lunar phase, which will be for another 2 weeks. So Venus in this conjunction with the sun in Scorpio right now, as I mentioned when we had the solar eclipse a few weeks ago, this is the best time of the year to embrace opportunity for shadow work healing. And what that means, shadow work healing, is when you work with particular modalities and practices that enable you to become conscious of what currently is happening on an unconscious level. I do have a playlist of shamanic shadow work practices on my channel here, which you can check out. Some of you have been reaching out to me and wanting to have shadow work sessions with me. And so I certainly invite that. I actually love doing shadow work. I love my own shadow work. I love guiding people through shadow work practices. And I feel like I've been doing this for so long that I have modalities really dialed in that bring deep and lasting results around shadow work. But you can also learn a lot about the techniques that I work with for free on those videos as well, if you want to give it a whirl on your own. So anyway, the sun in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio can also be about, Venus in Scorpio, especially opposing the Taurus energy, is embracing our sensuality. So when I think of sensuality, I think of the true definition of sensuality, which is enjoying pleasures of the senses. And that also is connected to the Empress tarot card. So another really cool practice that we can do over the course of the next few weeks in alignment with this eclipse energy is be mindful of enjoying pleasures of the senses, meaning inviting more pleasure in your life in an embodiment type of way, right? Being in your body through what you're seeing, touching, smelling, hearing, tasting, right? Eating healthy foods, enjoying creating a beautiful environment for yourself, working with aromatherapy, spending time with people that delight you to be around. Be creative with it. But this is a part of the opportunities that are coming up that support us in embodying the growth that we've made so far on our soul alchemy journey that has been initiated since this last eclipse season in April, May, enjoying the embodiment of that in preparation for moving forward for whatever the next adventures are on our journey. I'm also getting that with Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces and Mercury in Scorpio, because Mercury is about communication, thoughts, awareness, things like that. But in Scorpio, especially with the Pisces planets going on, this can be a time of heightened awareness that comes through our dream time, literally our nighttime dream time. So another amazing empowerment practice that we can all do tonight before you go to sleep, because for many of us, depending on the time zone that you're in, the eclipse is actually happening. For my time, it's at like 4 a.m. If you're on East Coast time in the United States, it'll be 6 a.m. California, 3 a.m., right, for United States. So intending before you go to sleep tonight, set your intention. What I do is over and over again, as I'm falling asleep, I set my intention that I'm going to have deep and meaningful dreams that are giving me insights and awarenesses around, and then you can fill in the blank, whatever it is that you're wanting deep insights and awarenesses around. If you feel like you're still trying to unhook yourself from old patterns that aren't supporting you anymore, are you ready to be bringing it into completion? Then set your intention to have deep and insightful dreams that are giving you guidance around how to bring those things to completion. If you feel like you've already been making headway, and that's more how I feel in my life right now, there's so many ways, even within my personal life, with my relationship with my husband, I feel like we're in a whole new depth of merging and connection that feels really good. And so if you're on having more of the experience of feeling like you're integrating right now and embodying, then set your intention to have deep and meaningful dreams that guide you in the direction of how to really harness that and hone that even more. So what else do I want to say about Venus and Scorpio, Mercury? You know, Scorpio is a very transformative energy, which is why it's, you know, connected to cycles of birth, life, death, regeneration. But it feels like this eclipse, this lunar eclipse, is setting the space for like a deep regeneration, rejuvenating. And so being aware of that may help you to really claim that for yourself a little bit more. The other thing that I'm going to talk about astrologically, and then I'm going to get into some cards, is we have Saturn in Aquarius that's making a trine to all of this. Saturn in Aquarius is trining this lunar eclipse that we've got going on tonight, and it's also trining all of those planets in Scorpio. And so this lends a beneficial support in the direction of we're all feeling like a deep experiential, almost like a body knowing that we're committed to claiming responsibility for our own path, right? So it's no longer like, oh, I'm wishing this would happen, or I wish this would happen, or I wish this person over here would do this so that I didn't feel this way, or however it's showing up for you. Now there's more of that embodied empowerment of like, no, I'm deeply committed to being responsible, claiming and owning responsibility for the path that I'm on. I'm claiming and owning responsibility for whatever boundaries I might need to establish. I'm claiming and owning responsibility for consciously dreaming into being whatever I imagine as being connected to my highest and best version of reality in the here and now. It's not so much about the future as much as it is in the here and now. So, you know, I really feel intuitively, all in all, that while some of us might be feeling a little bit challenged by this energy, all in all, to me, it feels like this big rebirthing, empowerment, awakening, expansion energy to be celebrated. So I would love to know how you all are experiencing this energy. So feel free to, you know, share in the comments if you would love. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and read a few cards and see what additional insights want to come up. Okay. So I'm going to work with my Osho Zen Tarot. I'm going to pull like 3 cards from the Osho Zen Tarot. And then I have this extra magical tarot deck from Egypt. I got this in Egypt a few years ago. And it's a vintage deck that's out of print. And I only use it on very special occasions. Sorry about my nails. You can tell I've been moving boxes and stuff. Anyway, so let's see what wants to come up. I'm going to give these cards a few shuffles, and we're just getting some additional insights as to the most empowering ways to embrace, embody, and work with the energy right now and in moving forward. And I'm just looking at Britt's comment here, about feeling like you had your booty kicked, but then realized that there was areas. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been talking about, right? So whatever challenges we're being faced with are ultimately supporting us and having a big giant leap forward right now. In fact, I thought it was so cool. Before I came home tonight, I stopped at the grocery store to pick up a few things, and on my way back to the car, and it was dark, it was like, already like 6:30 p.m. A really big grasshopper was like right in front of me, and I know that grasshopper medicine represents big giant leaps forward, and I felt that that was like a really uncanny message to come in for this eclipse, and I really feel that that's ultimately what we're all going to be experiencing. So let me just select a few cards here. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So we have in the Osho Zen Tarot, we have the card coming up that's called We Are the World, which is similar energy to the World card, or sometimes called the Universe card in a more classical tarot deck. I'll talk about this in a moment. And then we have Flowering. This is one of my favorite Osho Zen tarot cards. Sorry if it's a little bit blurry here. I have yet again another new webcam that I'm trying out here. So let me know how the audio and video is coming across. This is like the third one I've tried since I've started doing lives. I'm still dialing it all in. And then we have the Ordinariness card showing up reversed. And so obviously, as I've said, this lunar eclipse is supporting us all in our blossoming. Collectively, I feel that this is like a big shift that's happening, in the consciousness of all of humanity right now on the big picture. And I've been feeling this for a while, but it feels like this is an energy that's activating this. More and more of us in humanity are getting on board with our own soul evolution, our own spiritual awakening, and a desire to hold space for others who are still rising up into that. So I see this as being like a collective venture in anchoring in light into the world. And it reminds me of the concept of the critical mass, right? Like you never know when it's going to take just one more person to get on board with raising their vibration in order for that energy to become the dominant energy on our planet. And I feel like there's something about this eclipse energy that's activating that even more. Even when I'm saying that, I'm getting like a little wave of chills. And when I get a wave of chills, spiritual chills, it's like my psychic truth ringer is like ding, 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 aligned. And then the Ordinariness card reversed. The Ordinariness card in and of itself, to me, feels like it's having an energy of deep satisfaction with whatever is in the here and now in a person's life. And so that energy is there, but I feel like in the reverse position, it's like having a deep satisfaction within yourself around how you've shown up for yourself and the results of that you're seeing. I really feel that strongly. And I invite you all to consider that within yourselves. Look to see and notice where you do have a deep satisfaction around how you've advocated for yourself over the past 6 months since we had that last eclipse. Because I feel it's almost like there's no turning back now. It's like when you can see, you can't pretend you can't see, right? You can't turn a blind eye to something you've already seen. And I feel like for us on our soul alchemy journey that we've been on with all of this intense astrological energy, especially with Uranus and the North Node, and even before that, earlier this year, we had that the Pisces energy with Jupiter and Neptune, which is also happening again right now, but both of those planets are retrograde now. So it's this revisiting. But I feel like we've all made some type of deep attunement within ourselves that's enabled us to advocate for ourselves, to speak our truth, to bring ourselves more into alignment with the life that we choose to live. And there's no going back on that. It's like we're all getting this momentum and we're just going to keep going on this path. There's no more devaluing ourselves. There's no more shunning our self-love. There's no more relinquishing what we really feel guided to for the sake of what we think other people expect of us. I feel like there's no more of that. And this ordinariness card showing up reversed just makes me feel like it's a message for us all to pause and feel into that deep inner soul satisfaction that comes from how we have advocated for ourselves, and to keep that energy flowing and perpetuating. I know in my life and my own healing journey, I've recognized that, and I've seen results that are beyond my imaginings in positive ways. And I certainly know for sure that we all have the capacity to do that and to experience that. So if you're new on that journey, then now is a really good time to start getting on board with that with yourself, so that by the time we have the next eclipse season in 6 months ish from now, you'll be able to recognize that for yourself. So, okay. I'm going to pull a card, just one card from this Egyptian deck, and we'll see what comes up. Some of them they're potent, intense, but a little anomalous at times. Okay. This is awesome. It's called the Hope card. I'm sorry, it's blurry because of this camera. You can't really see it, but it's the Hope card, which I'm associating with the Star card in a usual tarot deck. For one, there's a star in it. Some of the same elements that are in a usual tarot deck star card are here: the water, the giving back to the land. And the star card, one of the components of the star card in a more classical tarot deck, is a lot about hope. So I'm just going to let you take in the imagery here. So there's like a lotus motif coming up. Lotus represents rising into higher awareness. It's all about evolution of consciousness. Let me see if I can see more clearly what she has in her other hand. It looks like a cup, right? Where she's holding the cup in her left hand, which is receptivity, receiving sustenance from the universe, but also being present, holding space and giving back, being present. When I think of the word hope, I don't think wishful thinking. I feel more of like a soul-centered knowing within a mystery that's still being revealed, right? And so all of us have our own versions of that. Our life really on one level is always like a mystery that's still being revealed or being revealed in real time. But hope is, for me, hope means a deep knowing that I'm being supported, even if I don't know how, right? And so I invite us all, the universe is inviting us all to embrace that energy. And this, it's crazy how this all goes back to that North Node Uranus conjunction that we're still being impacted by, that is being activated even more by the lunar eclipse. And the reason that this is relating to that is because the star card in the tarot, which I'm associating with this hope card, is basically associated with everything that the North Node of the moon represents in astrology, our true soul calling, our metaphoric North Star. So the hope that we're meant to carry forward is in alignment with that. So I know that this live has gone on longer than I usually go, but it's been fun. Hopefully the next one I do will be at my healing center. Either way, I'm going to be chiming in next week with another live energy update. And thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're on the live now or you're watching this at a later time. Let me know in the comments anything that you'd like to share about your experience with this lunar eclipse. If there's anything that you'd like to ask that I could possibly address in a future video, that I invite that as well. So yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. And all my love to you. Blessings. Namaste. And I'm going to see you around the corner in the next video. Blessings, guys.